Hello, Scooby Doo fans! Welcome to my Season 2, Episode 2 review of Scooby Doo, Where Are You? So last time I continued my playthrough of LEGO Marvel Avengers DLC with the release of Part 5 of my Let's Play, so I hope you guys enjoyed that as a little bridge gapper between the Episode 1's review and this one. And Part 6 will of course be another bridge gapper between this and the next review, if I get it up before the end of May. But yeah, today I'll be covering Season 1, Episode 2 of Scooby Doo, Where Are You? Titled Mystery Mask Mix-Up, which was released on September 19th, 1970. The short synopsis of the episode is Daphne buys a decorative and supposedly cursed mask in Chinatown and is subsequently kidnapped by a pair of ghastly ancient Chinese figures. The rest of the gang trail the kidnappers to the temple of the evil Zen-Tuo, who is apparently haunting the temple and wants to do away with the gang. So, like every other review and every other episode of Scooby Doo, Where Are You, I will, of course, be watching this episode on the Scooby Doo, Where Are You Complete Series box set. Of course, for any newcomers who haven't gotten this, you should definitely get it. It has all the Season 1, Season 2 episodes and the fake third season on it. So, as mentioned previously, cool box set. Go get it if you haven't gotten it yet. But yeah, I believe most fans aren't really that huge on this episode. It's not considered a good or bad episode by fans. From what I've seen from other reviews and other conversations with people of the Scooby-Doo fandom, it seems that this is most people seem to view this as a very bland and average and forgettable episode. And I say this because it's due to the fact that it's not really talked about much by the Scooby-Doo fandom. It's not like something that's praised to the high heavens like A Night of Fright Is No Delight or Foul Play in Funland, but it's not like hated upon or looked down upon like other episodes. So it's kind of in that middle ground where for a lot of fans where it's very much kind of like similar to like the Ghost of Redbeard's episode, right? Like Go Away Ghost Ship. This seems to be viewed as like an average and forgettable episode. But is this my opinion on the episode? Do I think this episode really is an average and forgettable episode, or is there more to it than people give it credit to, or is it worse than people make it out to be? Well, why don't we look at the episode to see whether I think it's a good or bad episode of Scooby Doo, Where Are You? The episode begins in a seemingly abandoned temple in San Francisco's Chinatown, where we see the ghost of Zen-Tuo materialize out in a puff of smoke. He orders his minions to go retrieve the mask and not return without it. Elsewhere in Chinatown, we cut to Fred, Daphne, Velma, Scooby, and Shaggy all watching the Chinese New Year parade. And even though they're clearly up front, Scooby just decides to sit on top of Shaggy and block his view. Like, I get it if it was in the back, but come on, Scooby, you're up front. You don't need to block Shaggy's view of the parade. Let him enjoy the parade. And after the parade, the gang stops by an antique store where Daphne purchases a golden Chinese mask encrusted with jewels. And I love a little joke Shaggy says, like, looks like Daphne's going to scare up a couple new boyfriends, which is a neat joke for Shaggy to make. And the gang leaves, and the two hooded ghosts from earlier, the minions, arrive at the antique store and ask for the mask. Not really, I don't know how they knew this was the place to look. It's like, how do they know this is where the mask ended up? Somehow they do, but the store owner, frightened, tells the ghost that he doesn't have the mask anymore and that a young girl purchased it. And they claim that they'll find her, which, I don't know, hooded minions. I think that's a tough task to go off of because you just got a very vague description of a young girl. Like, it could be any young girl in Chinatown, and yet they somehow know that they're gonna find her. And they do find her, miraculously. While walking down the streets, the gang runs into the hooded ghost, who attempt to take the mask. And normally a person seeing those types of ghosts would just give up the mask. But Daphne, being the the rich and spoiled kid she is, based on, succeeding series establishing that, but it's kind of chosen here. She's determined not to give up her purchased mask. I would just give it up, but, to not cause any trouble and not deal with these guys. But Daphne says no. So they ask Scooby for help, and Scooby creates a smoke screen from a steam press, which he gets in a Chinese laundromat. And it's really cool detail that we see Scooby can actually speak Chinese, which is a nice little detail that we didn't know about Scooby, and it's cool. And this creates enough of a diversion for the gang to flee. So Mystery Inc. decides to head to an Oriental art shop where a dealer, Mr. Fong, informs them that many centuries ago, the mask was stolen from the tomb of Zhen Tuo, a Chinese warlord whose ghost returns to seek the mask. He gives them a friendly warning that they're in great danger as long as they keep in possession of the mask. So while driving in the Mystery Machine, we see them pondering over Mr. Fong's story over Zhen Tuo and his minions, and trying to decide what their next course of action should be. And Daphne is still not willing to give up the mask, so that's out of the question. I mean, it'd be great for everybody if she just gave up the mask, but nope, she doesn't want to give it up. I mean, I get it, she loves the mask, she purchased it, and I get it, it's like money down the toilet, but would you rather face these guys? Like, we don't know what they're like. Although, they're kind of not scary in a lot of instances, so maybe I can't fault Daphne for not being scared by these guys. And while they're driving the Mystery Machine, the Hooded Ghost starts following them in their car, which surprises them because they didn't think... They call them zombies as well. Like, they went from ghosts to zombies, and I think they call them ghosts later on, so which is it? Are they ghosts or zombies? They can't be both. But they're puzzled that they can drive, so this ensues a car chase, which actually leads into our second chase song of the series, also, like, once again performed by Austin Roberts, I Can Make You Happy. And honestly, compared to last episode's song, I would say that it's better, but the chase from the first episode was definitely better than this one. This one's definitely more intense. Like, it involves the Mystery Machine, which is really cool, because I don't know if you guys know this, but I really love when the Mystery Machine is more involved in the mystery, or even has a central role in it. So anytime the Mystery Machine gets a little bit more screen time, it's because I see the Mystery Machine as like an unofficial sixth member of the group. So whenever the Mystery Machine gets a little more attention, I really love it. So it's kind of cool that we get to have a chase scene with the Mystery Machine. But I will say it doesn't hit the emotional impact of Shaggy and Scooby's friendship when Shaggy gets captured and they're being chased by Hyde. I just don't think it has that impact. But the song is definitely more better. Definitely more, more bubblegum poppy. It's fun to listen to. Again, probably not the best of the series. I think we'll get to that soon enough, but it's a pretty good song. I like it. And this leads into the gang crashing into Fisherman's Wharf, despite all the shit that happens. And at one point, they start driving through a hotel, and then they drive off of buildings, the top of buildings, and everybody covers their eyes, which is fine, but Fred is also covering his eyes, and it's like, Fred, watch the road! You're gonna drive off and kill each other! Like, how trusted it is in his driving skills is he? I mean, he does a good job, he doesn't crash until, like, the Mystery Machine runs out of roof to go on, and it crashes onto the ceiling, a glass ceiling of a building somewhere. But Fred just, like, he's just so, like, he trusts his driving skills enough to not crash the Mystery Machine. And a banana peel makes them crash into Fisherman's Wharf, out of all places. And they land in a pile of fish. And there's a nice little cute moment of, Scooby, finding Shaggy, and there's also a little bit of an animation error as well, where before that, Scooby at one point falls out of the Mystery Machine, and he's trying to get back to the Mystery Machine. And they animate, when they make the turn, Scooby is animated still in the car. It's like, did the animators forget that Scooby wasn't in the car? It's a weird angle. You gotta love these animation errors in like early episodes. But it was a nice, cute moment for Shaggy and Scooby. Nice little friendship moment. And I love Fred and Velma's conversation about having fish. Is pretty nice and funny. And in the confusion, Daphne is kidnapped. She's bound and gagged in the backseat of the ghost's car, and the mask is taken, and the hooded ghosts drive away. And like I said, I enjoy this chase scene. I love how crazy Fred's driving skills are to be able to actually not cover his eyes at one point. I love how the Mystery Machine has a central role. The animation error of Scooby. And Scooby being funny near the end of it. And I love the song. It accompanies the chase scene well. Like I said, I think the chase scene of the first episode is more emotionally better. Like, it's more emotionally impactful because of Shaggy and Scooby's friendship and Scooby saving Shaggy. But I like the Mystery Machine having more involvement in the chase. So I actually like it just as much. But I would say that if you were to ask me between the two, the first episode has a better chase scene, but the second episode has a better song.
The place where I'm going just around the bend. You know there's a lot that I can show you, and if you wanna go there I can get you in. Happy is a secret word, and if you're happy it will get you through. And I love you, you know it's true, and I can make you happy if you love me too. I'll take you to the place where I'm going, and the place where I'm going isn't far away. Baby, if you wanna get going, let your love start showing, and I'll take you today. Don't you see, you've only been dreaming, but I can make those dreams come true. 'Cause I love you, you know it's true, and I can make you happy if you love me too. Baby, there's a place where I'm going, and if you wanna go, then come with me. Then I wanna show you, 'cause I love you, you know it's true, and I can make you happy if you love me too.
So the gangs, try to search around, try to find any clues they can get to find out where these ghosts have taken Daphne. And they realize that the kidnappers have left behind a paper that reads this.
It says the temple in the hills.
Why the kidnappers would leave their location on, a laundry ticket receipt like that, I have no fucking clue. But it gives the gang their location of where they need to go. So the gang heads to the haunted temple that of Zentuo and his minions and enter. And so they split up with Fred and Velma finding a secret room. They enter, they hear a noise, and look to see a bound and gagged Daphne. Daphne struggles to speak through her gag, and so they remove it because they realize she's trying to tell them something, and she says it's a trap. And the door closes behind them and locks them in, and they're all trapped inside, now leaving Shaggy and Scooby to fend for themselves. So Shaggy and Scooby are on the other side investigating, and they run into Zentuo, who's now wearing the golden mask. And the hooded ghost, who chase them. And it's a pretty good chase scene. Yeah, I like it. There have been people saying that when Shaggy and Scooby dress up at waiters at one point during the chase scene, there are people who say there's a little bit of racism with how Shaggy talks and looks, and same thing with Scooby. And I'm not gonna defend that, but I will say that doesn't. That's up to you whether that bothers you or not. It personally doesn't bother me. I find the joke funny, and for the time, and I can accept it for its time period and not be bothered by that. But if that bothers you, then just know that you may there is some hint. This is the scene that points towards some Chinese stereotypes from the time period and a little bit of racism. Doesn't bother me. I enjoy the chase scene. I find it funny. Shaggy, and Scooby running away from these hooded ghosts, acting like Chinese waiters, they do their normal shenanigans, and tricking the ghost and getting away for temporarily, at least.
Faster, Scoop, faster! Slower, Scoop, slower! Welcome to Shags and Scooby's haunted Chinese restaurant. The place where the ghosts eat the most. You two look like you could stand a little fattening up. A bibs for the boo boys. Mustn't get dirty, Here's the specialty of the house. Chocolate chop suey and spare liver a la mode. If you want anything else, just go. After them.
So when Shaggy and Scooby temporarily get away, before we cut back to them, we see Fred and Daphne and Velma for a little bit, and they're saying it's no use, it won't budge, so they can't find a way out. And Daphne says something along the lines of, I guess our only chance is if Shaggy and Scooby can find us. And Velma says, it's up to Shaggy and Scooby? Oh boy, are we in trouble. And I'm like, Velma, have some faith in your friends. I mean, yeah, I know Shaggy and Scooby aren't the most competent, but they can step up to the plate when they need to. I think you need to give them more credit than that. That's not nice. Like, Velma, I know you're snarky, but why not keep that to yourself rather than saying that out loud? We don't need to hear that. That's not nice. Treat your friends with respect. At least have some faith in them. And at least if we're going to say that, don't say that out loud, because nobody wants to hear that. But yeah, so we come back to Shaggy and Scooby, who think they've evaded Zen-To and his minions, and they didn't, because they eventually, they run into a gong, and, fall down, and, get dizzy and all that, and they are eventually captured and placed into a room, tied up on a pile of fireworks, and a lit fuse making its way towards them. And he doesn't, and Zen-To doesn't care about killing them, because he just decides, yeah, fuck it, I'll blow up these two kids, because I don't want my operation being found out, which we'll get to that later. But wow, okay, we're just gonna go and kill Shaggy and Scooby again? Man, some of these villains can be really cold and, really okay with killing these teenagers when they want to. It's very fortunate that Shaggy and Scooby decide to go, that Shaggy tells Scooby, let's go put out that fuse so we don't die. And so they do, and they manage to escape because it lights their asses on fire. And in the process, they free Daphne, Fred, and Velma from the room they were trapped in because they land into the statue's arms, which opens it. So everybody's back together now. They've all escaped from their captivity. And Daphne, they say they need to find a clue. And Daphne leads the gang to a secret room that she saw on her way in, full of pigeons in a coop, which she thinks could be a clue. And so they find messages that read dates and times that have been tied to the pigeons' legs. So Velma has figured out the mystery and realizes what's going on, and Fred formulates a trap where Zen-Tuo comes in. He steps on a train powered by Roman candles, and the trap is set. And it involves actually Shaggy's model train set as well, which is pretty cool. I love that Shaggy has a model train set. I don't know why he would bring it with him, but that's cool. But of course, all does not go according to plan, because Scooby doesn't finish laying the track pieces out in time, and the train runs into Scooby Doo. Despite this, the villains are still captured. And to be fair to Scooby, he didn't know how fast he was going to do. We didn't know what time Zen-Tuo was going to come through that door. So I can't blame Scooby. It was just bad timing. But Fred's traps just always seem to never work. They rarely work at all. But I love the scene. I actually do. I find it pretty entertaining. I love how they capture Zen-Tuo. A lot of nice Scooby hijinks with the villain. And, I love me a little hijinks during the capture scene, so I think it was a good, capture scene and a good scene for Scooby and his hijinks.
Well, it's not the way we planned it, but it looks like we've got ourselves a sack full of ghosts.
Zen-Tuo is subsequently unmasked as Mr. Fong. Not really a surprise, considering he was the only suspect in this episode. And the hooded ghosts are just plain henchmen. We don't even know who they are. Just normal, run-of-the-mill henchmen. And so it was revealed that Mr. Fong has been the leader of an international smuggling ring, and information about dates and times enter the country inside the mask, and then the info was sent to other gang members by the pigeons. When the police questioned how the gang had gotten the mask in the first place, Daphne explains that the mask was delivered to a curio shop by mistake, where she ended up buying it as a souvenir. And the ghost act was to scare people away from the temple, which was their center of the operation. So with the case settled, Shaggy and Scooby are now both concerned about their next meal, and, that's no shocker there. And Velma, after being after her snarky comment from earlier, redeems herself by being nice and offers a Scooby snack to them. But she only has one for them both. So she tosses it up in the air for them to catch. But they both fumble it, and they fail to catch it, hitting the floor and being momentarily knocked out. And so the episode ends with a mouse running out of its hole, taking the Scooby snack for itself, and this elicits some laughter from everyone about them being outfoxed by a mouse. I'm going to give Season 2, Episode 2, Scooby Doo, Where Are You?, 3 stars out of 5. So, we'll start with the negatives of the episode first, because I feel like I've gone through the positives a little bit more in the last 3 out of 5 episode. So, we'll start off with the negatives first, because it's honestly it's a very low 3 out of 5. It just barely made the 3 out of 5 spot. Had a couple elements not been good. It could have easily been a 2 or a 1. But yeah, it's a very low 3. It's not like a solid or high 3. So let's get into my negatives before I give you what I like for the episode. So starting with the negatives, my first complaint of the episode and my biggest negative is that I find the villains to be very boring. They're very weak. So you got Zen 12 and his hooded minions. They're not good in any way. They're both very bland and boring. Zen 12 has barely any screen time and presence, which makes him a bland and boring villain. The only thing he does is try to kill Shaggy and Scooby at one point. But even when he has the mask and he wears it, he doesn't do anything cool, like any sort of powers or anything. He's just he doesn't even feel like a ghost. He just is boring. There's really nothing to him. No unique thing to have him stand out from the pack. He's just bland and boring, plain and simple. And his hooded henchmen are no different. I mean, the car chase they're involved in is cool, and when they're silent, they're pretty intimidating. But I think besides that, they're just as boring. And especially when they talk and they laugh, they don't sound as cool or threatening as they do when they were silent. So overall, the villain department for me is weak because they just don't have anything to them to stand out from the pack. No cool powers, no interesting lore, no interesting designs. They're not funny. They're not scary or threatening or intimidating. They're just boring villains. And then you have Mr. Fong, who's the man behind the mask of Zentuo, and you have henchmen who are the hooded minions, which I hate. You guys know I hate when no-face people are behind the mask. So having 3 people and a lack of suspects, but I'll get to that in a bit. So Mr. Fong outside of costume was also uninteresting. He didn't really do anything. He just told this boring backstory for Zen Tuo, but it was very, very it wasn't unique or anything. It just kind of was like, oh, he's a Chinese warlord, but there was no intricate backstory here. It just felt very, rushed and very little, very bland and boring backstory because there's not much substance to it. It's just he was a Chinese warlord. So I just don't find that a good backstory. And I think he's not good outside the costume either. He's not scary, he's not threatening, he's not memorable. He's just there. Then you have the clues of the episode, which are also very weak. You have 2 clues at most, and they don't point towards any suspect. It's just the Chinese laundromat ticket, which was stupid on the villains to do, and the pigeon coop with the dates and times and locations of the shipments. But it doesn't point towards anything. It doesn't really say anything about who it is. It just is there. There's not much to that. And I would say that another negative of the episode is one that keeps repeating in a lot of Scooby Doo Wario episodes, but it has to be mentioned. There was a severe lack of suspects in this episode. Mr. Fong was the only one of the suspects, and obviously he was going to end up being the bad guy because there was 3 guys. So he was, unless if he's the guy from a gaggle of galloping ghost, he doesn't have those skills. So he's literally the only suspect we have, and one suspect for 3 guys is not good. And of course, it has to be both a guy we've seen, and the obvious guy we've seen, and henchmen that we've never seen before. So it's a double whammy of bad because it's too simple. It's very much like the Redbeard episode. Just hire, hired henchmen that we never seen and could not have guessed, and one suspect that could have was easily going to be the baddie because he was the only one we had. There was literally no other suspects. I mean, the sales guy doesn't count from the curio shop because he wouldn't have needed to act like that if the henchman had knew him. So you can throw him out the window, and this made this. So there was barely any mystery on who was behind the mask because of all this bullshit. So yeah, not good on the clue front, not good on the suspect front. The aspects of the mystery was not great. Not handled well. You couldn't point towards a suspect, and there were not many suspects to point to. So yeah, very, very terrible. And my final negative with the episode is the atmosphere of it. So the atmosphere sucked. It was non-existent. I felt no tension or suspense in any of the locations. The only thing I would say that created any sort of tension was the music. The music was pretty good in this episode. I love the chase scene music, and this music helped set the mood for when they had to go to the temple or when they were in Chinatown. The music really helped lift it, but there was just no atmosphere to speak of. Nothing creepy, nothing spooky. I have no tension or suspense in these locations. Just not the type of locations I'm looking for at Scooby Doo. So the atmosphere is just not there. No. But that's all my gripes with the episode. So why don't we go on with the positives for the episode? So, of course, as always, the first positive is that I liked the gang in this episode. I thought they were all pretty good. Fred was a good leader who helped piece together the mystery. I also liked seeing Fred's driving skills put to good use in this episode. Seeing him showing off his crazy driving skills was great. I will say that Fred and Velma definitely didn't have as much as I would have liked to do, but I would say that they weren't bad. They just weren't. There was just nothing, it was just, they did their usual part, but they didn't do much more than that. So, but they were still good. They weren't underutilized or anything. Daphne feels like she was great in this episode. It felt like she was utilized very well. She helped kickstart the mystery by refusing to give up the mask to these bad guys, which, like I said, I personally would have given up the mask to not deal with this bullshit. But her being the rich, spoiled girl that she is, because we can infer that the stuff from in upcoming, in future shows, it's established that Daphne is rich, and that was always implied in the early cartoons. And I think even Hanna-Barbera, says that in later cartoons. So, yeah, I would say, it's fair to say that when she buys something, she doesn't fucking give it up so easily. And it could have helped them, but, I like that she was, by her refusing to not give up the mask, they were able to help stop this international smuggling ring by Mr. Fong and his henchmen. So that's pretty good. She did it because even though it was pretty selfish of her, and probably any other person would have just given up the mask and not deal with that bullshit, she didn't, and it ended up paying off in the long run, and they got these guys captured. And she was pretty empathetic towards the animals this week. She, especially the pigeons. Velma, of course, helped piece together the mystery. Really not much with Velma in this episode. Like I said, could have just did her usual thing. She said, there really wasn't anything remotely, besides her being snarky about, not about, Shaggy and Scooby being the ones to rescue them. She didn't really do much in this episode, but she did her part, so it was fine. She wasn't underutilized or anything. And then we come to our comedic duo, Shaggy and Scooby, who of course are my favorite characters of the gang. They were very funny in this episode. I actually really love the humor, and that was something that was lacking in the last episode. So I very much enjoy that the humor was on point in this episode. And we got some good Shaggy and Scooby humor. And another cool detail is I thought it was cool that Scooby knew Chinese. We never knew that Scooby knew Chinese, so it's nice to hear that, he knew that, and that's a pretty cool skill to have, just like Shaggy's ventriloquism. So yeah, the gang overall were pretty great. I'd say Daphne was the strongest of the bunch. She definitely she helped kickstart this mystery. It was really her that helped solve it, and she played a vital role in this episode, which was great. I love seeing Daphne get some attention. She definitely doesn't get a lot of attention a lot of the time, so it's nice that there is an episode focus on her. And Shaggy and Scooby have some great humor in this episode, and which makes me laugh in this episode. It doesn't feel devoid of humor like it was in the last episode. It felt like we had a good fair amount of humor. And then we get on to the mystery of the episode. So I thought the mystery itself was good. It's just the elements of them, so the surrounding the mysteries, like the clues and the suspects, were not great. But the mystery itself was good in this episode, with the gang trying to figure out why these guys want the mask. What do these hooded ghosts want with the mask? What's their purpose? And what are we going to do? Like, how do we keep it away from them? Or how do we, deal with the situation, since Daphne's not going to give up the mask? And I liked the motive of Mr. Fong. Despite not liking Mr. Fong and his henchmen, both inside and outside of their costumes, I will say that I did love the motive, and I thought it was pretty interesting that Mr. Fong was running an international smuggling ring. I wish we would have known what type of smuggling ring he was a part of. They never really explicitly say what operation it was. They kind of just say he was just a leader of an international smuggling ring, but they don't say what he was smuggling, or if it was like a money motive, sort of. But I think it's a pretty unique motive, because it's not really a money motive and it's not a land motive, so it's something new and different, and I like it. I think it's a cool motive. And the last thing I want to say for the positives is that I think the setting was unique and different. I like the Chinatown setting. I think it's cool that we go to San Francisco's Chinatown. We get to see, the all around Chinatown and the haunted temple. They all look pretty nice. Nice little diversion from, normal Scooby-Doo settings. And while it doesn't, while the atmosphere doesn't work as well as I would have liked, the setting is cool and different, and I like them for, going for a different type of setting. So I do appreciate the locations of this episode. I think it looked beautiful. It looked nice. I liked seeing how the temple especially looked pretty nice. Overall, guys, I would not recommend this episode to fans and newcomers of the show. Yes, it's a 3 out of 5, but like I mentioned previously, it's a low 3 out of 5. It barely made it. Despite the positives of the episode, I feel like the negatives are just too big to ignore, and it's just not an episode that I could see myself revisiting much. It's very average and forgettable, just like people say, and how every Scooby-Doo fan says. It just didn't work for me in this episode. It's not my kind of episode. Maybe for like a couple scenes, like either some chase scenes or something like that, this episode is good for, or maybe some of the humor, or Daphne playing a central role. But other than that, this episode is very bland and forgettable, and it's just basically Redbeard level of, it's there, it exists. Not good, not bad, just it's there. Nothing special. Which is a shame, especially since we started off on a high note last time, for season 2, and now we're back to now we got an average and forgettable episode. So it's a shame, but hey, what are you going to do about it? Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Please give it a like if you did. Comment down below your thoughts on the episode. Do you like it? Is there something that you love about this episode? Please tell me about that. Do you hate it? I'd be interested to hear if you like this is an episode you hate a lot. I've heard people say they don't like it because of, what I mentioned previously with the racism. It doesn't bother me. I know what time period it is, but, that I could see people not being big on that. Or somewhere in the middle like me, where it's just, average and forgettable. It exists, it's there, but nothing special. I'm curious for your thoughts, so let me know down in the comment section below. And subscribe for more Scooby-Doo content like this, or if you're just interested in any of my other content. I should maybe have one more Scooby-Doo Where Are You review up for May before the end of the month. After that, whether I will continue more Scooby-Doo Where Are You reviews is really up to you guys. If you guys want more Scooby-Doo Warrior reviews for the summer special rather than the book reviews, please make that clear in the comments of any of these May reviews or my community posts that I posted for May. You can also comment there. Otherwise, I'm going to be doing the Scooby-Doo comic books for my summer special. But there's still a lot of Scooby-Doo content, to come. We have right now, there's the summer special with either the books, or we might review the TV show episodes, and of course Scooby Month, where I'll be doing Let's Play videos and more reviews of the TV show episodes, since I missed last Scooby Month. So please join me for that. There's plenty of Scooby content on the way. You can also follow me on Facebook, where I have discussions about things we talk about on both my channels, and Twitch, where I hope to live stream in the future. So in my next video, I will pretty much try to finish off the LEGO Marvel Avengers DLC playthrough with the release of Part 6, which will be the final part. There's still 3 other bonus levels that I'm going to have to get to, so I hope you'll join me for that, when Part 6 comes out, and I hope you guys enjoyed Part 5. We'll maybe we'll squeeze in the 3 bonus levels. I might be able to get 1 or 2, but I doubt I'll get all of them done before the summer special. So yeah, we're almost done with LEGO Marvel Avengers, but still not quite there yet. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, peace out.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? We got some work to do now. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? We need some help from you now. Come on, Scooby-Doo, I see you, pretending you got a sliver. You're not fooling me, 'cause I can see the way you shake and shiver. You know we got a mystery to solve, so Scooby-Doo, be ready for your act. Don't hold back, and Scooby-Doo, if you come through, you're gonna have yourself a Scooby snack. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, here are you? You're ready.